Hi everyone, this is Dragon GJY, and this is the operator hindsight for SilverAsh, the Reignfrost, the latest limited banner operator and the author of the OG SilverAsh. Let's get started. SilverAsh, the Reignfrost, is a 6-star strategist in the Vanguard class. Trait of the Archetype, blocks 2 enemies, and can support allies in the deployment waiting zone. He's part of the Yarak faction, which is the bigger faction above the original Karlan Trait faction. So let's briefly talk about strategies, which is a very new archetype. To sum up their function, they work by prepping operators with buffs before they even deploy. Most notably, they can change, in most cases, reduce the DP cost of operators instead of the traditional DP generation approach. If you compare their stat line with Pioneers, they simply is built superior, higher max HP, higher attack, higher defense, higher resistance, and 1 less DP. The only downside is a slightly longer attack interval. Now, I can argue that compared to Pioneers, strategists usually come with a less offensive skill set, but honestly, that's up for debate, especially when 3 out of the 4 6-star Pioneers are beyond 4 years old. On first impression, it would seem that DP cost reduction and DP generation is pretty identical, and in most cases they are indeed. For pros, reduction can better tackle situations where there's a DP cap limit, like in episode 12. In the same way, they can also continue to generate more effective DP after reaching the cap. In cases where you deploy over and over and operators get double DP, 99 DP is gonna get used up really fast, and that's when the DP cost reduction mechanic could come in handy. For cons, reducing the DP cost of an operator will also reduce the amount refunded on their retreat, which I think is understandable. Second, DP cost reduction is usually selective towards a certain target or two. In other words, if the operator you are looking to deploy next does not get it, you effectively gain 0 DP, while generating DP doesn't have that same limitation. So for the same reason, it's also not that inspiring when you need to deploy summons or equipment, which are all not affected by DP reduction. Also note that DP changes will be reset after the affected operator deploys and retreats. They don't last permanently in that stage. Here's the breakdown of SilverAsh's kit. He's a support-oriented character with a lot of tricks up his sleeve. Other than what you expect from a Vanguard and a strategist, he also focuses on startup and cycle boosts like on-deploy SP and redeployment time reduction, while continuing his signature invis reveal from the OG self. SilverAsh creates early DP advantage to help tackle the early game, provides faster and empowered operator deployments. He is compatible with AFK comms, being able to provide invis reveal and fragile from a distance, as well as crowd control in the form of cold and freeze primes him for advanced applications as well. Talent 1, when on field, SilverAsh adds an Eye of the Blizzard to the deployment waiting zone, and rearranges undeployed operators according to their DP cost. Self and the operators to the left of the summon gain 4 starting SP and redeployment time minus 20%. Talent 2, when on field, all Yarak operators gain Frozen immunity, defense plus 60, 80 at potential 5, and recover 1.5% of max HP every second, 2% at potential 5. After being deployed for 15 seconds, which is like no time at all, defense and HP recovery effects double. Let's first talk about Eye of the Blizzard, which I'll just call the summon from here on, is a utility card added to the deployment waiting zone, which I like to call deck. It can be deployed outside of skill 3, it's just a wild card. The summon has designated DP for each skill and will not be altered by stage conditions or relics, which is good news. Your skill learning won't be thrown off by random DP buffs or debuffs. It's always on the right side of all operators with the same DP cost. That's also great. The summon will rearrange the deck order based on the current DP cost, instead of sticking with the default logic. To save you time, I'll tell you the key difference. By default, the deck order is fixed as the game starts. A low DP operator doesn't get rearranged to the right even when they become more expensive after retreating. The operator that you borrow from your friend will always be on the right side most of the deck as well. However, once you deploy SilverAsh and have his summon in deck, operators will be rearranged constantly based on their DP cost, and most notably, the two rules we just mentioned will be changed. However, when there are multiple pages to the deck, only the page with the summon in it will be affected. This only happens in RA and briefly in Rebuilding Mandate. But it is quite annoying. I've got to be honest, because RA is actually a game mode where you are expected to redeploy a lot, and SilverAsh is supposed to be good in those situations. But no, this has not been fixed. There's a workaround though. If you play the game on an ultra-wide screen, or you just force it to do so by using emulators, you can have enough space to keep everything in one page, which is hilarious, not gonna lie. Buffs provided, including the ones from his talent as well as his skills, do not reset after SilverAsh leaves the field. Of course, they expire after the next deployment along with changes to DP costs. Unlike the OG SilverAsh, whose redeployment reduction effect is effective on summons, this talent works specifically on operators only. The principle is very clear. It helps to reduce downtime for a full cycle. Operators come back earlier and have their skills ready earlier, and that of course applies to himself and is the reason for his early advantages. The initial SP gives him great independence from Bagpipe. The summon also serves as the basis for all his skills. For the faction buff, it's a callback to the OG SilverAsh skill 2 and is actually a great faction survival buff like Gladia. The freeze immunity does not apply to cold though. Here are all the operators who are considered part of Yerag. The talent provides good sustain. After the very short 15-second warm-up, it gives SilverAsh himself almost 100 passive HPS, as well as a final defense stat of 622. That helps him tackle early mobs and survive well through the stage as a vanguard. Freeze Immune is a countermeasure feature for sure. For newer players, he helps in Chapter 6, or more recently in Yerag's side story stages and IS-3 with the debuff and the Last Night boss. It can be used to counter Promonix Altar's self-freeze in her talent 2 as well, which we'll cover next episode. So more notably, the talent benefits Promonix Altar with that interaction as well as a trait which magnifies base defense gains. Gnosis, after getting his IS specialized module in this patch, is also a popular support option who's picked alongside SilverAsh Altar. Other members who have relevance in IS benefit similarly, like Dagonbrecher, the OG SilverAsh, and even Matterhorn and Steward in some cases if you use them. For skill recommendations, I'd say all his skills are pretty good, and your priority is more up to your playstyle. For the most offensive playstyle, we have skill 2, which provides big range cold application plus damage plus invis reveal to empower the Halley drops. It only reduces DP cost, but with great effective DP efficiency. For players who do more pre-stage planning and want to specifically target an operator for early deployment, we have skill 3. It has great early DP advantage, comes with a portable invis reveal, AoE damage, and fragile application package. And for players who just want AFK, skill 1 is an absolute AFK skill that also have great DP efficiency, with its function limiting to just providing one-time barrier that can protect operators as they deploy. Skill 1 immediately gains 10 DP, reduces the DP cost of the operator closest to the summon by 5, prioritizing guard, caster, sniper operators to the right of the summon, and grants them barrier equal to 50% of SilverAsh's max HP. This is a 19/29 auto skill. DP of the summon is 16 while equipping this skill. I have the whole DP efficiency table here as a reference. By effective DP efficiency, it means that the DP costs reduced are also regarded as if they are generated. That equation doesn't always stand, but it should give you a general idea of how good they are. For this skill, the effective efficiency is 0.5172, slightly below support gamma of flag bearers. Barrier amount is like the median of ranged operator HPs at 1249, which is pretty great. For mechanics, DP reduction priority is as described: guard, caster, sniper to the right, and these are your common damage classes, hence the priority. If there are none, then it will go to the closest operator to the right before starting to pick ones on the left. Clicking on SilverAsh will mark the next to be affected unit with a double arrow, and units already affected are further marked with a number. Barrier HP is based on SilverAsh's own max HP, which isn't met with the priority going for ranged units, but barrier amount does not stack. While the skill itself seems pretty ordinary, I think it's low-key quite impressive. First of all, it's completely hands-free like Texas Skill 1. By looking at this DP growth graph on the right, which we continued from Vulpes Follia's episode, you can see that SilverAsh is the one to buy back his own cost first. He's able to generate the first wave of DP fast due to his own on-deploy SP buff. The advantage on second use around 35 seconds into the game is also very significant. Of course, Psych Skill 1 generates more DP in the long run, but the front-loaded pattern and being AFK friendly is the main appeal here. Skill 2 deals 380% attack of physical damage to up to 6 enemies in front, inflicts cold and removes their invisibility for 6 seconds, reduces the DP cost of the operator closest to the summon by 11, again prioritizing guard, caster, and sniper to the right. Operators on the left side, on the other hand, will trigger the damage effect of this skill upon deployment once, and that includes the cold and invis reveal effect, using their own attack up to 2 times, can store 2 charges. This is a 9/17 manual skill. DP for the summon is 14. Range is the exact same as the OG's true Silver Slash, and the skill DPH is also very close to the OG at 2.48k. The effective efficiency of the skill is 0.597A, which is absurdly high. But don't forget the fact that the skill does not generate DP at all. We'll analyze that in a sec. DP priority is the exact same as skill 1, and again, you can click on SilverAsh to see the next unit to be affected. Units prepped with the on-deploy slash and the respective stack count can also be visualized. Invis reveal is effective before both damage and the cold application. That's also certainly welcomed. Let's first look into the cost reduction part of the skill. 14 DP for the summon is a pretty interesting number if you do the math. Each use reduces 11 DP, so the most expensive units currently in the game who costs 36 DP will fall to the left on the summon after 2 uses. Following that, there are some other initial DP thresholds that you should be aware of. 18 DP operators will always return to the left even after 2 deployments with 2 skill 2 uses. Typical examples are dreadnoughts like Skadi and Neural Alter. If you have potential 1, they are 18 DP and work with the skill very well, especially Skadi with her redeploy module. 7 DP operators are always on the left regardless of their deployment counts, because doubling that, it's still 14 DP. Typical units are lower rarity executors, for example Project Red, Gravel, if you have their potentials. And bad news for 6-star executors, they are at minimum 8 DP. Considering that the reduction doesn't prioritize specialists, it's a pretty big hit for them. There's a little trick here to use SilverAsh alongside Muses. During the copy sequence of Muses' flowing shape, all operators in deck are temporarily 0 DP and, of course, to the left of the summon. If you use skill 2 during this time, you'll be able to apply buffs on all operators in deck, which they will keep afterwards, and selectively reduce the DP of the operator with the highest cost, because they will become the closest to the summon. I know this sounds pretty broken, but they have actually kept that as a feature 6 months into his release, so I'm not gonna take it as a bug, but a little tips to using the skill. I guess that's a good reason to use Muses nowadays as well. The on-deploy effects are applied after reducing costs, so if an operator falls to the left with a skill use, they get the slash from that skill use as well. So, as shown in the table just now, the effective DP efficiency of this skill is top shelf level. However, on-paper numbers don't show its drawbacks. Compared to just generating DP, the effect of the skill is selective towards damage units, and if you are very used to initiating by just one Vanguard, the gameplay flow of using SilverAsh for that job may be hugely different. If a stage is limiting the natural DP generation, SilverAsh is gonna struggle quite a bit on his own, so the best way to use this skill really is just to work with another DP generating Vanguard. Next, let's talk about the on-deploy effects, starting off with the slash damage. The most unique thing about this skill is the damage uses the attack stat of the operator affected instead of SilverAsh himself, and that opens up to a lot of powerful combo, being a 380% scale. The damage dealt is also a non-source damage and doesn't trace back to SilverAsh. The damage is dealt 1.1 seconds after deployment with a 0.5 second interval between each stack. And the rule is simple: whoever has high attack on deploy works with this skill well, more so if they come back fast. The full initial SP also gives skill with fast startup a chance to benefit, although it's a bit harder to time the skill. Typical examples are Skadi skill 2, OPN skill 3, and fast redeploy units. I think overall OPNs and Skadi is the most effective, and I'm going to share my experience with using OPNs with this skill. It's simple: deploy and do bullet time. Use his skill when you see his module icon completely unfold. That's the timing. To further expand the scope of compatible operators, you can further combo with Axia Alta skill 3 for a total of 10 initial SP. That will cover an even wider set of skills, but be aware that it's also dependent on the wind-up time before a skill gives the attack bonus. This is where skills like Holder skill 3 would fail the job. We also have a 6-second cold that comes with the damage, and 2 stacks of cold turns into 6-second freeze. So yeah, once you prep the whole deck with double slashes, you'll be getting multi-target crowd control bombs that you can helo-drop basically anywhere. In IS right now, when SilverAsh himself uses the skill, it combos with Gnosis' new IS module for the instant freeze. Key takeaway for maximizing the skill's potential: limit the number of non-halo drop units in your team, or just keep them deployed. You need to embrace the chaos. Stop bringing in accessories or just operators you won't deploy, like Force Sway. Skill 3, attack range expands into a core caster range, removes enemies' invisibility in range, attacks deal 200% of attack as physical damage, and inflict 30% fragile to targets in a straight line. Immediately gains 9 DP on use, then gradually gains 24 DP in duration. On first skill activation, swaps the DP cost of the operator with the highest cost, again prioritizing guard, caster, and sniper with the lowest in the deck. The summon also becomes deployable while the skill is active. This is a 46/55, 48-second long duration, long cooldown skill. DP for the summon is 19 when using this skill. SilverAsh does not get attack modifiers in this skill. It's an attack scale bonus, so the skill DPH is moderate or borderline low at 1306. Buffed by the fragile, it goes to about 1.7k. The cycle effective DP efficiency is 0.31. It's obviously due to the super long downtime, but again, numbers don't tell the full story. Let's break it down one by one, starting with the DP cost swap. It swaps the base DP cost of operators. What that means is that operators will keep their in-stage DP changes with them instead of swapping altogether with each other. That will include cost multipliers from deploying or changes from other strategists. So for example, I have a deployed Gravel who's now at 7 DP from the 1.5 multiplier. If I swap with a 34 DP undeployed Penance, I will end up with a 5 DP Penance and a 51 DP Gravel. That 1.5 multiplier stays with Gravel, while Penance would maintain her state of not yet deployed and stays at 5 DP, the base cost for Gravel. Stage conditions and relics that change the cost of operators are effective before the stage starts and is regarded the base DP cost for this stage, and thus will be swapped. If there's only one operator in deck, the effect count is not consumed. The swap can only happen once and does not reset in any way in the same stage. Now let's talk about the attack and the coordinating attack behavior. During this skill, SilverAsh's attack pattern changes into releasing projectiles of 0.8 tile collision radius that moves at 10 tile per second for 0.3 seconds, so that's up to 3 tiles, and dealing AoE damage to all targets in its hitbox. Each hit will inflict fragile for 2 seconds. The skill description says you can deploy his summon, but actually it can only be placed on an operator to initiate a coordinate attack. It doesn't interfere with the operator's normal actions, because if you look closely, it's just him sending out Tenzin to that operator. It shares the same attack pattern and effects as SilverAsh himself, meaning that he can provide remote fragile buff and invis reveal for anyone. Also not specified in the description is the fact that after the DP cost swap effect is consumed, the next skill used will come with a hidden, kinda compensating effect, where if there's no operator with the coordinate attack active on the field, the next deployed operator will automatically be granted the effect without having to have the DP and manually deploy the summon on them. So what's the advantage for this skill? Let's bring out the graph again, and SilverAsh is able to buy back his own cost within the 10 seconds after his deployment, only behind his own skill 1. What's not reflected in the graph is the fact that he uses his DP swap to deploy key operators, presumably a damage core, much more earlier than other vanguards. The skill has a long duration, which pretty much covers the DP generated by other vanguards in 2 or even 3 skill uses. And don't forget, for that entire 48 seconds, he has good damage capability, at least enough to cover the entire early phase of a stage. Continuing after the first skill, the drawback of a long cooldown skill will start to show, as you see near the end of the graph after about 65 seconds, but like we discussed with Vulpes Folia, DP generated 10 seconds into the stage is much more important than after 100 seconds. After SilverAsh's first skill, his job is basically done, and you will pretty much have all the key members on field by that time. What's interesting is that you can either wait for the skill to come back in 55 seconds, or you can choose to redeploy him, which takes about 56 seconds after his own talent. That's almost identical, but having him on field can keep both of his talents up, so I generally recommend that. Now, as an advanced application, you can abuse the DP mechanic to benefit even more from DP swap. Normally, an operator cannot refund more than their original DP cost from retreating, because operators can only get as high as double of their original DP from redeploying twice, which on retreat will refund half of that, which is the original DP. However, if the refund mechanic is altered, like Module X executors who refunds 80% of the DP, and charges who refunds full DP, that rule would not apply. So from that, if you swap DP with these operators, like Gravel with her Module X, or Bagpipe or Fang Altar with their Module X, then launch them with Xia Altar Skill 3 to burst generate a lot of DP very fast. But honestly, that's a lot of setups and labor, so it's not a very practical thing to do when you play normally. So in practice, Skill 3 is the middle ground between the AFK but less offensive and function-rich Skill 1 and the offensive but labor-intensive Skill 2. However, its effectiveness greatly varies between team compositions, or you can say player preferences or playstyle. For example, if your core members are mostly low DP, which would be like Executors, Liberators, Trap Masters, or even Geeks, swapping them with a higher DP teammate may be against your usual tempo. But if you just want to deploy your favorite damage core like Visadel, Pramonix in AFK, and is willing to bring a very low cost member like a robot to facilitate that, it's a game changer. But if your team is very packed, for example in a 7-op composition in contingency contract, there's no redundant members in the team. Swapping the DP cost between any two of them may change your approach completely. So either you build the strategy around SilverAsh Skill 3 from the start, or you just wouldn't put him in halfway through. That's the nature of this skill. So in hindsight, SilverAsh the Reignfrost is a team support that can facilitate faster and empowered deployments. His kit packs DP generation, cost reduction, and swap to help deploy key and likely damage operators significantly faster than other Vanguard options, creating early advantages. He has initial SP and redeployment time reduction buffs to smooth up operator cycles and cut down their downtimes. He also provides various on-deploy effects to help secure safe landing while dealing good damage, crowd control, and debuff to enemies. For drawbacks, when he manipulates DP, the effects are targeted, selective against certain operators, as compared to generating DP as a universal resource. So that'll require pre-game planning, and the result could be affected by the potentials of all the characters, as well as the deploy discipline of you, the player. So the user experience could vary depending on your comfort playstyle, the key operators that he enables, the overall team composition, etc. Knowing to pick the skill that suits your preference is the first step to using the character. And thankfully, I could say that most of the playstyle that exists in the game right now can find a skill that can integrate SilverAsh into the team well. For daily, I think SilverAsh brings a brand new experience to playing the game, specifically starting a stage. For new players, this is when you're most likely to practice your moves, and Skill 2 has the same DP efficiency from level 1 to Mastery 3. The only differences are in damage and CC time, so under the same account progress, he has massive advantage against other vanguards. So I'd say for new players, stick with Skill 2. It tackles early enemies well and can help to scavenge situations by hella dropping on enemies and turning them into ice cubes for some time. For AFK, definitely go with Skill 1. It's efficient and completely hands-free. It's a great alternative to Texas Skill 1 and basically an auto version of Silex Skill 1. For veteran players, you are now independent to pick your favorite playstyle, so if you like AFK, go Skill 1. If you like the intensive manual work, go Skill 2, hella dropping. Or if you are a tactician that enjoys the pre-stage planning and the methodical unfolding of every stage, you go Skill 3. For advanced contents, SilverAsh as a character packed with functions naturally have great potential, but it is also context dependent. For the fixed integrated strategy discussion, what he offers can justify a pick. The most common approach would be teaming up with Gnosis with the IS module for the Hierarch team that functions around cold and freeze. He can work with relics to extend his crowd control or to reduce downtime. Currently, he's doing great in IS6, mostly with Skill 2 or to initiate stages faster with Skill 3, especially in the Remnant Conscious. He creates more deployment opportunities in stages where you will expect continual redeployment like the Kuilong fight in IS5. Sure, he's not as competitive as agents under attack speed environments, but you can always just have another 5-star agent alongside him. For other content, he's quite shafted by the multi-deck page mechanic that we mentioned earlier in RA, but overall utilizing him requires planning from the start. If a strategy doesn't work for him, he's easily replaced by other vanguards. And at the end, his advantage when compared to other vanguards comes down to fast startup, which also gives him independence from bagpipe, good self-sustain to tackle early enemies, and the ability to quickly deploy selected units. Well, that's gonna be it for this episode. I know the video is like extra late, but I feel like that's gonna be my pace for some time. I still want to prioritize content over speed, so as always, thank you for watching until the end. I hope you get something out of it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.